shift and expand your consciousness in a very, very slow way. And each day builds on itself. And then they usually they work on their meditation practice. They work on goals, mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional goals. I call it microdosing for improved health, whether it's mental health, physical health, spiritual health, or emotional health. And again, have them setting goals and intentions at the beginning. They can go 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. The goal, though, is to see a shift in their external environment because they had a shift inside of themselves. And a lot of times the medicine, just like Kambo, will speak to them in their dreams. So I'll sometimes ask them about their unconsciousness through their dream state, because the medicine has a tendency to speak to them through that way as well. So it's all about making the unconscious conscious.
Welcome to this episode of Haunted Hour Podcast. Today I have a wonderful guest, Magdalena, and I'm going to let you talk a little bit about what you do, but there was a few things in your bio that I found really interesting. And we were just talking a second ago and how a lot of things tie into the subconscious and dreams. So obviously I'm really excited about that. But you say that you're the healer's healer. And I think that's so important because when you're helping others, sometimes it takes all of your life out of you, and you have to have someone who then helps you as well. And I think a lot of healers don't do that. Do you find that to be true?
A lot more than I had hoped to, for sure.
And then so you specialize in grief, trauma, and addiction after your own journey with, and I'll let you get into that. You're a plant medicine woman, spiritual teacher who specializes in shadow work, connecting and communicating with your ancestors to break generational trauma and cycles. You also do the microdosing coach and Kambo practitioner. You focus on mind, body, spirit medicine. And so I've heard of Kambo, but know nothing about it. And so I kind of wanted to dive into that and microdosing a little bit, and how does that work for us? And then how would it tie into our subconscious and even dreams? First, I want to kind of talk about the Kambo. So what is that and how does it help people?
Yeah, and it goes, I'm going to go back to tying it into, what you focus on, because it's probably kind of weird to think a frog medicine from the jungle. Yeah. But it actually came about as a result of a dream. So you're going to like this story. So Kambo frog medicine is, it's been around for, a couple thousand years, give or take. It's something that is so unique and only found in the Amazon. So in some ways, I hope it never becomes, extinct or whatever, goes away. It's a frog. Yeah. That is actually has a resin, or it's actually a poison on its skin. If an animal in the jungle eats it, the animal's going to die, basically. Oh. But the secretion from its skin, when it's applied to your body transdermally, helps you go through a deep, deep physical cleanse that is also mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, all of the bodies, mind, body, spirit cleansing. And the way it was discovered, there was a tribe that was dying, like they had their own version of the pandemic a long, long, long time ago. And the leader of the tribe, the chief, I guess, for lack of a better term, he drank grandmother ayahuasca, plant medicine that's very, very popular right now. And the medicine told him about this frog called Kambo. And it was going to be the thing that would heal and keep his tribe alive. So when he woke up from his dream altered state of consciousness, in his hand, as the legend goes, the frog was just sitting right there. And however he figured it out, he was able to save his tribe's life. And so it's an animal spirit as well. If you're into animal totems or animal spirits like me and my husband are, it's a very deeply emotionally cleansing spirit animal. And so the medicine itself helped me work through a lot of unprocessed grief, a lot of unprocessed trauma, as well as addiction. It's got a lot of peptides inside of, there's 19 or more known peptides, which if you know what amino acids are, those are also peptides. So scientifically, it's got a similar amino acid profile that once it's applied to your skin transdermally, it helps you throw up, it helps you purge, it helps you sweat, it helps you cry. It can be applied anywhere on your body, you know, below the neck, front, back. I apply it to different chakras. I apply it to different acupuncture meridians, because when someone has trauma or addiction, like for me, example, I was addicted to alcohol, people pleasing, overdoing, over consuming. I developed a lot of candida in my gut. I gained about 40 pounds through a very, very stressful period of my life. And as a result of that, I wanted to die. I was a very, very unhappy person and became someone that I really wasn't. A lot of it was in my unconscious mind. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but that medicine woke me up the most, even more than psychedelics, quite honestly. And it's not a psychedelic, so it's fully legal. I serve it all the time to clients. I even served myself this past weekend. I have a maintenance protocol. To me, it's better than acupuncture. It's better than a lot of things out there because it's helping cleanse the body. And when your body's holding on to that trauma, it's hard to move forward. Meditation and all these tools, they're great. Energy work, fantastic. But if your body's holding on, like physically in your organs, in your cells, in your kidney, in your liver, good luck with trying to change your habits. So it helps rewire your brain and cleanse your body in ways that I've never seen anything else do.
Wow, that's really fascinating because I've never thought about like something that's emotional. I mean, I understand that like when things are emotional, it does cause illness and you begin to program yourself, especially if you get into like a negative path, you program yourself and you just keep going further and further down the negative path until you believe, you know, the story you're telling yourself. And it's hard to like go back. It's like double the work to undo any of these things, alcohol, or even just like a negative. I almost feel like negative thought is almost worse than anything because it's something that's happening inside of you that people may not be aware of until you get to a certain point where alcohol is like something you're purposely going out and you're buying it and you know you're doing it. But when you're negative and you negative self-talk, it's like you don't even realize that you're doing it. So, I mean, would that help with just somebody having a negative mindset? Like, what does that do?
Absolutely. You're asking me at the right time because it's top of mind. I had a woman who came to me and she was really, really unhappy in her marriage. She was really unhappy with her life. She actually quit her job, her corporate job of over 26 years and was completely feeling lost. And that brought up her inner critic. Like hard, big time. You have all this time off now. All of a sudden, what are you going to do with yourself? So the critic was like this. And she said after one session with Kambo, this was just this month, she said 97% of her negative thoughts and habits, kind of like the habitual negative thinking is a habit. Yeah. She said it disappeared for her. And, you know, it's almost a month later. She did do 2 more sessions and she said it just got better and better with each one. So absolutely, I would say that's why I'm a shadow work specialist. And you're going to love this. I'm reading a book about Carl Jung's life. He's the reason I'm into shadow work. And it's called Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. So since 80 to 90% of our life is driven by our unconscious mind and all of our, you know, external results is a result of that. And it shows up in our dream state, you know, since you are the dream interpreter, you know, it is a huge thing. If you're driven by that, it's hard to just change your thinking. You know, they say, change your thinking, change your life. But yeah. If you can't heal the body, like I say, you heal the mind through the body and the spirit. That's why I work mind, body, spirit in the way that I teach, because the mind, you can only do so much. You can try to read all the books in the world. You can try to meditate. You know, I know a lot of people are into Joe Dispenza. No offense towards Joe. I highly respect what he does, but there's still too much focus on the brain here and not enough on the body. And once you heal more of the body, this starts to become way more clear.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because like if you have a healthy diet and it does affect you mentally, that's interesting. So like if you do a Kambo session, what would somebody expect? Like, as if I were to come in and have this done, how does that all like unfold so that I end up feeling better?
Yeah, and it's warrior medicine. So I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with that. It's not for everyone. And in fact, I have a very thorough medical and mental health intake screening process to make sure there's no contraindications. And I won't go into all of what those might be at this time, but just make sure that people are ready mentally, physically to do it, because it's super, super intense. However, I feel like sometimes the more challenging things are, the better our life can become on the other side. So that's why it does so much, such a little period of time. So we meet, I consult you on your goals. I find out what it is you want to heal, mind, body, and spirit. We set intentions. It's a very psycho-spiritual medicine. So I even ask people 2 weeks leading up to it, pay attention to your dreams, because the frog will speak to you through your dream state, your waking state, whatever triggers are coming up in the moment, whatever reoccurring negative thoughts or patterns or habits are showing up. The medicine works inside of you even before you sit with it. And when you do come and sit, we have like a 3-hour ceremony ritual. I turn it into, being a medicine woman, I do open up with the 4 directions, calling upon your wise and healed ancestors, your spirit guides, your animal totems. So hopefully, you'd have to be open to that first and foremost, but we protect the space. Then I work with Hape and Sananga. Those are 2 optional medicines. We don't have to necessarily talk about them, but they're grounding. They help open up your third eye. They help calm your body and your mind, because it can be very nerve-wracking to receive the medicine, especially if it's your first time. And even if it's your 10th time, you're about to give up parts of yourself that have been with you since you were born, and possibly ancestral, possibly past life. You're literally going to throw up, sweat, cry. Some people poop, pee. Obviously they go to the bathroom, but there's a lot of physical purging, somatic release. Very occasionally people will feel a little bit of a bliss state, but 99% of the time you're going through a physical cleanse or purge for about 20 minutes. That part is only 20 minutes. And then afterwards, I'll do sound healing. There's singing and music the whole time to help raise the vibration and the energy in the room, of course.
Yeah.
Once you're done, you rest as long as you need. And then we talk about what you experienced, and then we close the space. And then I always do a follow-up call and integration to make sure that whatever came up for you during the session can also then be integrated into your daily life, usually setting some goals, some new intentions now that you've let go of parts of you that no longer serve you.
So do people, when they have this experience, are they able to like know what they've let go of? Like, do they get like, because sometimes people can be like, okay, like maybe somebody's trying to quit smoking, so they know kind of what their goal is and where things may have come from. But like, what if somebody just goes in and they just overall feel bad or whatever, the whole negativity thing? Like, do they have visions and know coming out of it what they kind of need to work on? Or
everybody's different. Most of the time after someone's first session, it's more physical. There's not necessarily altered state. Like I said, it's not a psychedelic. Some people will get messages from their ancestors. Some people will see beings and past loved ones or animal totems or angels. They'll get kind of like in that dream state and have a psychedelic experience and get downloads and messages. And sometimes those will come later. Sometimes it'll come in their dreams afterwards. Mm-hmm. But I'd say probably about 2/3 to 75%. It's really, really physical in the moment. And then after they go home, journal, reflect, pay attention to their dreams, and have a coach call with me, they'll get more clarity. They'll feel more purpose driven. They'll have less tendency to grasp to the addictive behavior or thoughts. Like I said, the one gal was, I don't know how she came up with 97% of her negative thoughts went away. But, at the end of the day, it is about measuring your progress and then taking whatever information came through, even if it was just like, wow, I need to take better care of my body, or I've got to take better care of my mind. You know, I've got to, whatever the case may be, or maybe I choose to write a forgiveness letter to a family member because I realized that I was holding so much resentment or anger or frustration, disappointment, whatever that emotion is. I get people to really get into that deeper, like letting go, figuring out what it is that they're wanting to let go of. I take them through exercises to self-discover what that is, so that they actually do have a psycho-spiritual realization, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be angry anymore, or oh my gosh, I just released a bunch of sadness and I want to have more happiness in my life. And then they can set goals from there.
Yeah. I really love the whole idea of it. So how does that compare to like microdosing, and what is the purpose of that versus like the Kambo?
Yeah. And admittedly, if someone's open to it, I would have them start with Kambo first, and then they could go into a microdosing coaching program with me if that calls to them, if they feel like they have deeper daily habit ongoing changes that they need additional support with. Microdosing, and I only work with 2 medicines. One is psilocybin, also known as magic mushrooms, although I don't ever like to call it that. I call it psilocybin. And then ayahuasca, which some people get like confused because they think of, you know, going to the jungle and puking and all of the things that happen with ayahuasca. But this is micro. So like 100 milligrams of psilocybin in a capsule, and then the drops of the ayahuasca, because it's a tincture. Since it's a plant that can be made into a tincture, you just hold it under your tongue, and it's a tiny, tiny piece or part, and just like 5 drops as an example. And they both help shift and expand your consciousness in a very, very slow way. And each day builds on itself. And then they work on their meditation practice. They work on goals, mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional goals. I call it microdosing for improved health, whether it's mental health, physical health, spiritual health, or emotional health. And again, have them setting goals and intentions at the beginning. They can go 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. The goal, though, is to see a shift in their external environment because they had a shift inside of themselves. And a lot of times the medicine, just like Kambo, will speak to them in their dreams. So I'll sometimes ask them about their unconsciousness through their dream state, because the medicine has a tendency to speak to them through that way as well. So it's all about making the unconscious conscious so they can have different results in their life.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same with like doing dream work, and your dream interpretations is trying to sometimes our subconscious, I believe, has all the information, and our conscious we do, but we're so busy, you know, trying to live our lives that we can't pay attention to, you know, something that happened 25 years ago. It's there, but we're not dwelling on it maybe at that moment, and not even realizing how much it affects us. I didn't realize I started doing heavy dream work only in the last like 3 years. And I had no idea what I really thought about things. And I was like, I tend to live in fear, and I'm still working through that now. I have a lot of issues with fear. And so, but I realized that it was actually rooted like in an anger. And even like, you know, like you can forgive other people, but if you don't forgive yourself, that's the hardest. I found with most people you talk to, forgiving themselves for allowing something to happen, you know, is like, you know, one of the hardest things. So if you get somebody who comes in that's like that's kind of the issue, like self-forgiveness and things like that, what would you choose to work with them on that?
Honestly, the same. If you could start with Kambo, again, it's not for everyone, and you might even be declined if you're on too many medications, or if you've had, you know, heart attacks. There's different things where it's just not safe to do it. If they can do Kambo, cleansing the body keeps the score. If you've ever read that book, it's like you're holding on to so much, literally and figuratively, that, you know, if you can cleanse and get kind of like it helps a ton with your gut microbiome. If your gut brain is healthier, this brain's going to be healthier, which is why Kambo is so effective for the thinking and the mental health. But then the other reason I would have people start there is if then they could microdose afterwards, then their body is a cleaner vessel to receive messages from the universe, as well as dreams and all of that kind of stuff. So that would be my ideal. You know, if someone just wanted to not work with any kind of medicine, I love shadow work. That's why I became a shadow work and ancestral trauma specialist. So if they're like, you know what, Magdalena, I don't believe in plant medicine, or I don't want to do this frog thing, then, you know, shadow work is my jam, to be able to help them get to the root causes. That's basically the underlying theme of all of what I teach is let's get to the root causes. You know, a lot of people say alcoholism runs in my family, or this disease runs in my family, or whatever. And it's not true, by the way. It's just unresolved trauma lying dormant inside of your DNA that your ancestors are now, I believe you and I came into these bodies to help our ancestors heal the stuff that they couldn't, to awaken the planet, you know?
Yeah.
So it's another option if, again, people aren't into any kind of medicine work.
Yeah, that's good, because I think that can be scary for a lot of people, including myself. Like I drank it's a dream tea by Anima Mundi is the people who sell it, and it has, I think, ashwagandha in it. Like I said, I'm not real familiar with the stuff, but it had a bunch of other stuff in it too. And I drank that tea, and I had the most amazing dream of my life. And it was so cool. But like when I woke up in the morning, I had a massive headache. And so I still have the tea. I've never drank it again just because of the headache. So what do you think? What is your take on that? Like having such a vivid, good, informational dream, but then waking up feeling so ill?
To me, it makes 100% sense. And another reason why I'm going to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, why people have got to do like a preparatory cleanse, even if it's not Kambo, but just like to really clean their body up. Because when you do things like that and you bring it up, and I've had lots of people have headaches in their first week of microdosing, or a headache after sitting with Kambo, it's because your body's detoxing. So dreams are also detoxifying. It's your body processing unconscious trauma, unconscious mind stuff. So a headache makes total sense. It's not like a hangover headache, although, I mean, maybe some might argue that, depending on, I don't know that tea particularly. I know other things like blue lotus. There's lots of plants, herbs that are great for dreams, you know, like St. John's wort, all of that. I'm into witchy stuff. I call myself a pagan witch. So I'm studying a lot more of that now to help, you know, my clients, but it's really just a detoxification symptom.
Oh, so that means I probably should have detoxified before I drank. And so like if there's detox teas, right? So is there something that's like in a tea form that you could drink that kind of cleanses you a bit?
Have you ever wondered what your dreams are trying to tell you?
Unlock the secrets of your subconscious with my dream interpretation workshops. Join me for an immersive experience where you'll learn to decode your dreams, understand hidden symbols, and gain insights into your deepest thoughts. I will lead you through interactive sessions designed to help you explore the fascinating world of dreams. Don't miss out. Reserve your spot today and start your journey to self-discovery. Visit thedreamsinterpreter.com for more information, or email me at info@thedreamsinterpreter.com to get started.
That's a great question. On the spot, I can't make a great recommendation. I would probably, actually, you know what? Something just popped into my mind. If it's not so much known as detox as central nervous system regulation. I do that a lot with my clients, because trauma, once you have it, it negatively impacts your central nervous system, and you're holding on to it. And as you start to unwind it, you know, then that can bring up some more dysregulation. So I recommend Tulsi tea, which is basically holy basil. So that's going to help your central nervous system be calmer, and that might help. But I would need to think more before making a recommendation on any kind of like detox tea.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. So then, okay, so then shadow work, like what's the I kind of understand shadow work is that you're basically working on your past traumas, and but then you talk about like the ancestral traumas. And so how do you decide if you're working with, because I've had a lot of dreams that almost seem like they could be past life dreams, and I have a lot of people who come to me and they're like, I don't know if this is from my past life, and I've always kind of thought that it could be ancestral memories, and that's imprinted in our DNA, and they're dreaming about things that actually happened to their ancestors. So do you think that maybe if somebody has a dream that's very specific to a time period and it's kind of repetitive, that maybe that's an ancestor that you need to kind of try to work with? And is that something that you could incorporate into the sessions?
Absolutely. Yeah. And can I tell a quick story that kind of gives
Sure.
an example? Yeah. And I could go on, I might even tell you a couple stories, but part of what led me to the work that I do now was what I call the mother wound and the father wound. I felt like an outcast most of my life. My mom had me when she was schizophrenic, like literally she was in the psych ward in a mental hospital. And so she was taken from me, or rather I was taken from her from day one. So I never had a mom. So I had a deep mother wound. And then my father was pretty, emotionally shut down, doing the best he could as a single father of 4 and a farmer. So I had these 2 big wounds, but guess what? It didn't start with them. We all have 4,000 plus people, men and women, in our patriarchs and matriarchs that had to be existing in order for us to be alive today.
Wow.
So when I started working on my mother wound and my father wound, I realized, wait a minute, they did the best they could, but they're carrying wounds from their mothers, their fathers, their grandfathers, their grandmothers. And so I realized I had to go much deeper because, again, talk therapy didn't work for me. When I started finding shadow work, I was able to really start to understand that inside my body, I'm holding the DNA and the cells and the blood and the bones of these beings that maybe I've never met, but they're impacting every decision I make and every experience that I have. And so I had a dream where my dad, who is dead, and my brother, who is dead, they came to me, and in the dream, can I swear on here, or is that
Sure.
not okay?
Yeah.
My little girl was so angry and I hated them so much. I was like, fuck you. And I was like hitting them really, really hard in the dream. Okay. This was my unconscious that had repressed a lot of anger from my childhood. Yeah. And I woke up the next morning just terrified, like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that to my father, my brother. It felt so real. I thought it had really happened.
Yeah.
And I talked to my spiritual teacher at the time, and she said, your ancestors are calling you to heal, your father's side of the family, that masculine wound. And so she took me through an ancestral lineage imprint that I now do because she was my teacher and she passed it on to me. And once I released that, then I released my mother's side. Then I started receiving messages from my ancestors like saying, here you go, this is what's next. Now you're going to work on some guilt and shame. And this is from great grandmother. Now you're going to work on the women on your dad's side who shut down their sexuality. Congratulations. Here you go. It was like one thing after another, and after another. And now we see that with our clients. They'll start working on the mother wound, and then they're going deeper into the ancestral, 10 to 11 generations back, but they're getting to the roots of it and pulling out the weeds and the crap and the stuff. And so that gives space for new seeds of love, compassion, forgiveness, light, prosperity. A lot of us have similar wounding because our ancestors all kind of grew up together, depending on where you're from. So a lot of abandonment, a lot of scarcity, a lot of fear. And I feel like most people are trying to heal that right now. And if it calls to someone, I would recommend that they check out ancestral trauma because it's been the biggest change and difference for us. And they speak to you through your dreams. If you ask them, they will come.
Yeah. I actually have not tried that, but I have certain dreams where I have somebody who comes to me, and it's a man, and it feels like a relative, but not one that I know of. And he's always the one that's trying to give me important information, maybe things I don't even want to hear necessarily, but just very, this is what you're doing wrong, so to speak, but not really doing wrong. But this is the problem. This is the block. This is where, you know what I mean? So I take that to probably be somebody, I was saying it was my subconscious, but maybe it's something even deeper and more universal than that, which is really exciting to think about,
Yeah.
I mean, just thinking about our past relatives is amazing. Okay. So you, in 2020, you started doing this in 2020, right? Okay. And so it was because I know you have like a story you wanted to share, or I'd like to hear about that and how you kind of got going.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, because it goes well with when you have my husband on your show, because he was a part of it. So at the beginning of 2020, I was a very different person. I was making tons of money as a sales coach, and I was just like on top of the world, and like I was at what I thought looked like the top of a mountain that was about to completely crumble and fall apart. And the turning point was when my brother dropped dead of alcoholism in early 2020. And he had basically struggled with that his whole life. And so when we got the phone call, it wasn't entirely a shock, but it was a wake-up call for me. Simultaneously, my husband, and he and I were like at odds at this point in time. Like I thought, I don't know if I'm going to stay married to this man. I feel like a terrible wife, a terrible mother. These were all the things that were in my unconscious behind the scenes. And I was going on a business trip. We didn't know that my brother had died yet. He dropped, in the middle of winter in his kitchen, and nobody found him till a week later. Oh. And so my husband was home alone while I was on my trip, and he saw my brother, or what looked like my brother, come to him in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m. And he looked kind of ghostly, kind of gray, kind of weird, but he knew that it was my brother. And sure enough, 3 days later, we got the phone call that he had been probably dead for about a week, at least 5 days. And that was sobering for my husband, because he was like, whoa, wait a minute. Was his ghost trying to say something to me? And why did I see him and nobody else? At least nobody told us that they did. And I sure didn't. Not in the way my husband did. I connected with my brother in different ways after that. But we both realized, like, we got to change our lives. We have to figure out what's going to heal us. So that's when I tried psychotherapy, grief counseling, and a whole bunch of other things like meditation, subconscious mind work with a subconscious mind coach, and none of it would do anything. So I started on the plant medicine path, and with Kambo 1 year later. So between a lot of altered states of consciousness with plant medicine, going and seeing the dead. I had also lost 8 friends to suicide and multiple people to alcoholism, not just my brother. So I had a lot of unprocessed grief and trauma. And so by the time I was able to connect with them many, many times in that dream state of altered state of consciousness with plant medicine, I healed so much. And I cried so much. And I was able to then develop more of my spiritual gifts as well, and cleanse my body and go through that whole process. And then I did shadow work, got a certification in it as a result, and realized, like, this is my life's work. Same with my husband. That was his first official ghost experience when my brother came to visit him. And then it just opened up Pandora's box for him. And thankfully we had teachers and support along the way, because as you probably know, spiritual awakening and doing it yourself is not fun, and it's not exactly advised. I know people are losing their minds and seeing all sorts of things, hearing all sorts of voices, and waking up to these new gifts as well. So we both were fortunate that we were able to take that path. And now, now we're passionate about speaking to the dead, helping people connect with their past loved ones, helping people recover from grief with a lot of our tools and modalities, as well as addiction. Because for me, I turned to addiction to numb my pain, my emotional grief and sorrow and fear and shame and guilt that I had with all of these past loved ones. So addiction was like a soothing process, and once I got so far into it, it's not like you just flip a switch and the next day you're fine. No, I had to go through a physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional, completely big time overhaul in order to not only stay alive, but thrive beyond that.
Yeah. And I really agree with what you're saying. When you do self work, if you go too deep in with, like anything, if you're trying to do it yourself, it can be bad if you're not informed. I found that myself too. I kind of open, like you said, Pandora's box, and not in a good way. I open things up, and then you're kind of left sitting with it, and probably there would be a better, smoother way to have gone through things. I know. I'm so sad my internet's not working right. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. It happens. Don't worry. We're still in a Mercury retrograde too. Just remember that.
Okay.
It finishes this week, so you can blame that if you want.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see what happens after it's over. That's right. I forgot about that. Oh my God. So do you follow like the different like star charts and all that kind of stuff? And how does that kind of work into that? Like,
yeah, I love astrology. I'm actually studying Ayurvedic medicine and Kundalini yoga right now. It's another part of my just continuing education of helping people cleanse their mind, body, and spirit. So I'm really into astrology. I see how big it plays a role in our daily lives, and especially since I've regained my ancestral roots. Like I was raised really, really strong Christian for 30 years, and that wasn't my ancestors' thing. They were pagans, they were animists. They were into the sun, the moon. They did rituals on the full moon. They did rituals on the new moon. So now me and my husband, and with our clients, we'll do new moon, full moon. I pay attention to all of that.
Oh, wow. So didn't you have like your clients set intentions on like a new moon and do like a 30-day cycle?
Yeah. And in fact, with Kambo and microdosing, I usually do 30-day programs to kind of like kick it off. And I'm always reminding them if they want to start on a full moon, because then they're releasing whatever. And then they can go through that 4-week moon cycle. And like in the first 2 weeks is like letting go, purging, cleansing. And then when they get to the new moon, now they can set new intentions. That's ideal. Does it always work out?
Yeah.
No. But it's fun. It's fun. Like there's a gentleman, it's actually his birthday tomorrow. So he just finished today his 3 sessions in 30 days with Kambo. So he wanted to start his new year on a solid footing, and then we have the new moon coming up this coming weekend. So it worked out really well for him.
I love that. I never thought about that because my friend Danny and I would do another podcast, and we had just done a thing about setting intentions on the new moon. And we kind of both struggled with because some people say, to do it on the full moon, and some people say on the new moon. And so that just kind of closed the gap for me. I understand better now that the full moon is where you're letting things go, so that when the new moon comes up, you can set your intentions because you've cleansed. Like you just put some puzzle pieces together for me that are amazing that I never like understood. That is so cool. I did not get that until right now.
Oh, wonderful. And hey, I always tell people like check in with your internal guidance and what's best for you. Right now that works. I do a lot of work with the divine feminine too. And like when you're easing into the new moon, that's like where it's the darkest, right? So to me, it's like, and I do witch rituals and stuff, and a lot of them have advised me to, full moon is, and really full moon to new moon is like a good time to let go, clean house, purge, and then, begin anew on the new moon.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. Like I said, that just totally like a light bulb just went off in my head. I just realized something that I was totally missing. Okay. So what about events? I know you have an event coming up. When this podcast airs, it'll be the following weekend. I really wanted to talk about that a little bit with you. So tell us about the event.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a huge one. It's a life-changing one and a life-saving one. So part of my journey, I shared with you, my brother died. I've lost many to addiction as well as suicide. I've actually lost 12 friends now as of today. Suicide. And in one of my plant medicine journeys in 2021, they all, up to that point, all of them in the spirit world came to me. My brother came to me. People, also famous people like Robin Williams, Chris Cornell, Prince, Chester Bennington, you know, they all had died either to suicide or addiction. Addiction is really just another version of suicide, quite honestly. And they came to me and said, hey, congratulations. You're healing what we couldn't heal, you know, like the mother wound, the father wound, the religion wound, the ancestral stuff, the separation, the isolation, the abandonment that a lot of them succumbed to and ultimately took their life as a result of these unconscious thoughts and things that were driving them. And we want you to, you know, be our spokesperson to like be out there and help heal others. And at that time I was like, hell no, fuck no. That's not who I am. I don't see how that's going to work, because I was still at the beginning really of my healing path. But then 2 years ago, I started microdose coaching. 1 year ago, I started serving Kambo. And all of my clients that I attracted, they had witnessed suicide, or they had it in their family, or they had addiction in their family. They were raised by alcoholics. You know, there was a lot of these same patterns that kept showing up in my space. And then I would have people who would call me from sober houses, or even clients who couldn't afford to come see me, and then their sister just committed suicide, and now they're like a big wreck, right? And they can't afford any true healing. They could only do the insurance or big pharma model, right? And we know that doesn't get all of the work done. No. I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah.
I respect the Western model, but I have also seen how it helped kill a lot of people along the way. So I finally got the courage this year to launch an in-person suicide awareness event on September 21st is Suicide Awareness Month. The whole month, actually, I'll be honoring different people's stories on my podcast, talking about breaking the stigma of suicide and addiction and having open conversations about it, and offering up inspiration, education, hope, and healing. This event on the 21st is in San Diego County. However, it's going to be live streamed around the world on my YouTube channel. So just wanting to let you know that people can watch it. They can donate virtually. People can attend in person and pay to attend. It's a 3-hour event with sound healing, speakers, a silent auction. And it's really meant to be the kickoff of annual events. I plan on doing this the rest of my life. This is part of my nonprofit sector to create scholarships for people, families specifically, who've lost family members to suicide or addiction, and they're just lost, dazed, and confused, and they need help and hope and healing. And we want to be able to provide those scholarships for people like that.
Oh God, that's beautiful. I love that. And now that you mentioned, I do remember that you said that it was going to be live. So anybody can watch it no matter where they're at. And so it's September 21st. And what are the times and the channel?
Yep, it's 3 to 6 p.m. And if it's easier, you know, just know this is probably the easiest way for me to convey this. It's go to MagdalenaGrace.com, which is a website that I gave you. And it has the YouTube channel on there, and it'll say, when I update it today, it doesn't say that, but when I'll put it at the top, they just go to MagdalenaGrace.com, and it'll say YouTube Live Suicide Awareness Fundraiser. Just click on that. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a small chance it might not be on my YouTube channel. It might be on the venue's YouTube channel. So that's why I'm just telling you now. Let's just put MagdalenaGrace.com. It'll be on there. And if people follow me on social media, I'll be posting about this. I'll be talking about this. My YouTube channel is also the house of my podcast, so they get to hear countless stories. Some are heartbreaking, but people who've, you know, tried to kill themselves but are alive to tell the story and also are passionate about this. I have a lot of people talking about addiction and just, again, not all doom and gloom, but you know, a positive spin on it so that we can normalize the conversations, we can build awareness and save lives. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. They can follow the whole month of September. I'll be having all these interviews, and they can find out how they can donate also at MagdalenaGrace.com. And if you have a story, I mean, reach out to me. I don't need any more podcasters for this September, but, you know, we're just trying to build community, build a referral network also of other healers. So if you're a healer, a practitioner, or even you know, we're all about Western and Eastern medicine as long as you're in the mental health space, the emotional health and well-being space, I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. So now tell me a little bit about your podcast. It's on YouTube and other places. And do you interview people, or what do you do on your podcast?
Yeah. So, gosh, it's been going 4 years now. So I first want to tell that story. So my name is Magdalena Grace. When I started the podcast, I went by my legal name because at that time I was a sales coach focused on entrepreneurship stories. It's still the same title of podcast, Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. And now it's taken a big shift since I've taken a big shift as well. Yeah. So now it's about spirituality, plant medicine, shamanism, unconscious mind, shadow work, anything and everything that's about healing mind, body, spirit. And specifically, because we're into ancestral trauma and unconscious mind work, it's really about anyone who has a story that I can interview that also connects the dots back to ancestral health challenges or financial issues, healthy and wealthy and wise. The idea is to raise your consciousness through my podcast so that you can manifest your best health, your best wealth by trusting your own innate wisdom within. And so I mostly do monologues anymore at this point. However, I am only pretty much doing interviews the month of September for Suicide Awareness Month. And then I'll have about 2 guests a month, usually on average, talking about different topics.
Oh, yeah. I got to check. I watched a podcast on, I think it was found on your website. It was you and your husband talking about your story, which right. I highly recommend watching that if somebody really wants to get to know you guys. I thought it was, I mean, it's so raw and so honest. And I think everybody, not only, we have like our whole hidden side that we're aware of, like there's this part we're not aware of. And then there's a part we are aware of that we hide from people. And I love that you just put out there that you guys were struggling. And instead of just like, most people are just like, fuck it. And you get divorced and it's done. But instead, you guys took the time to work with each other. And that's like a beautiful story in itself, that you guys were in the same place at the same time in all ways. And you turned into something really beautiful and positive. And I really admire that, because a lot of people don't do that. It's sad.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, we do work with couples now or I work with women because it seems like a lot of women are waking up faster than men. And so then it makes it really hard to be in a relationship and to, we were like, should we stay or should we go, even up until last year. And so we both did the work. So that's my message, is you got to really do the work to not only attract, but maybe keep the partners that you have. And that's not easy in this spiritual awakening, because we're all bringing up our ancestral trauma. We're all bringing up our mom and dad shit, right? All of the things that we inherited. And if you don't heal it with your partner, well, guess what? You still got to heal it, because you might attract someone else with a different name, but the same stuff,
Yeah. And do you think that's what happens like with friendships and relationships? We end up, because you'll hear a lot of people will keep dating people and it turns out bad every time. And then you, as an outsider, you're like, well, that's because you keep dating the same type of person. And so do you think that we unconsciously are attracting, or do you think it's even deeper, that maybe they're being brought to us, our paths are crossing because we need that lesson? We're going to keep getting it until we get it.
100%. There was a saying, and I'm probably going to mess it up. I just heard it. And I can't remember now where I heard it, because like I'm so much is shifting in my consciousness. So bear with me, but I'm paraphrasing, but history will keep repeating itself until it doesn't need to. Yeah. So ultimately you're repeating your ancestral stuff. All of us are, until we understand and raise our consciousness and heal it, transmute it, let it go, and raise the frequency to love and light and good stuff. I mean, we all have a dark and a light side, and you can't just get rid of the dark and bypass it either. But to really love yourself and love the dark and the light, that takes a lot of work, and it's going to keep repeating until it doesn't need to. What I interpret that to mean is that you got to look in the mirror and heal whatever you need to heal, or you're just going to keep marrying the same person, dating the same person, attracting the same clients, attracting the same business partners. Trust me, I did that, bought the t-shirt, we'll be writing a book about it. you know, and it's all for our soul's evolution. It's all for the greater good. It doesn't feel good though, especially if you keep repeating the same shit, different day mistakes or the same people. But the more you can peel back those layers of the onion, the better off you will be. But it oftentimes, you got to walk through the shadows, and it may very much get worse before it gets better. But on the other side of is so much more bliss, joy, and authenticity that it's worth it.
Yeah. And I mean, I see that in my own life. I've definitely, you know, I've learned some things very quickly because it was enough. It was traumatic enough the first time to like not do it. But there are other things I tend to do it with friendships or even just like social activities. I do the same thing over and over again. And so I'm like 55 and I'm just becoming aware of things. I'm a late bloomer. And so it's like, for me, it was through dream work. And then just talking to people like you, it like opens up my mind just a little bit. You know, I get these different seeds that plant in my mind and I understand. But is that basically what, when they talk about being more awake, is that you start to like something happens and you see where it comes from, and you can even trace it back to something you remember hearing about an ancestor. And so that's the process. And then, like, if you do get to a point where I guess they say higher vibrations or whatever, does it make it easier? Do the same things come at you and you're able to just know what it is and just kind of not allow yourself to be in that situation? You know what it is. Is that like?
It's a progression. And I'm not saying, also, I want to reiterate, I haven't arrived anywhere. I'm not perfect and I'm not done. I'm still on the path. However, now I can be more like a witness and an observer, and I can own my shit faster. If I need to clear, I will clear it with the person, my husband, my kids, whomever. I'll clear it. I'll acknowledge it. I'll ask for forgiveness, and boom, you can move on. So that's one step that, you know, you're heading in the direction is you catch yourself in the moment. You maybe can't change what you did, but you check yourself, right?
Okay.
Another sign is that the same stuff doesn't keep happening because you're now preventing it from happening. You have boundaries, you speak your truth, and you don't care who stays or goes. You know, there's that sovereignty thing that's coming up in the consciousness of the whole age of Aquarius. And you're just more truthful. You're just more honest, and you're not holding on to everyone and trying to be all things for all people. So it does mean that there's going to be a lot of relationships that fall away, and you want them to, and that's take a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. But you get to a higher level where you're like, okay, it's all good. Time to move on, clear up, and start and do whatever it is, like finding a new friendship or a new partner. And you don't take it personal. You respond versus react, you know, in downward spiral.
Yeah.
Turn to things like drugs or alcohol or whatever, you know, you ascend beyond those things. So I don't think we're ever done until we're dead. But
Yeah.
I think those are just kind of like the quick overviews of what I've seen in my life and how it's helped me have way less stress, a lot more freedom, and a lot deeper, not even a lot of, but just deeper, richer, more authentic conversations and relationships as a result.
Well, my one last question was that you mentioned Age of Aquarius, and I even remember there's a song about that, and I don't actually know what that's referencing. What does that mean?
Oh, cool. Awesome. I love telling people about this. And keep in mind, it actually has different names depending on who you are and what you believe. Okay. So the Age of Aquarius is the Aquarian age that we're heading into. And in fact, it's happening. We're still vacillating a little bit from the Piscean age, which was about patriarchy, masculine domination, control, power, greed, and all that kind of stuff. And in the Age of Aquarius, we're gonna let that all go, which is why a lot of that is still in our face right now, because we got to heal a lot of those things before we can move into the Age of Aquarius, which is more about love, deep, lasting, meaningful relationships, wanting to make money in a meaningful way, not just working hard for your money and working a dead-end job that you hate, but you're doing it just for the money. Like that stuff is all being let go of. what else? Sorry, not all of it is coming to me right now, but those are like the main things is sovereignty, you know, claiming your sovereignty, standing in your truth. It's also known as the divine feminine awakening. Maybe that's what you've heard it called.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So now the why, I mean, I'm not political, so please know what I'm about to say has nothing to really directly do with politics, but that's why Mexico just had a woman president. Kamala Harris is up for, you know, the election all of a sudden. It's not all of a sudden. It's the divine feminine trying to come in to help women lead and grow and be seen as equals as men. That's also part of this age of Aquarius. The other, like if you're into Hinduism and more into like other worldly religions, we're heading out of the age of the Kali Yuga and heading into the Kali Satya. Satya is about truth, which again goes back with age of Aquarius, divine feminine. The Yuga was all about destruction. And that was like a 4,000 to 5,000 year period, which included the Aries age and the Piscean age. If you get in astrology, that's why we're heading into Aquarius. It's going backwards in our calendar year, but it's all basically language and labels for the same thing. It's our planet is being reborn. We're all, you know, seeing a rebirth. We're cleansing and clearing the shadow and all the bullshit and the lies and mistruths so that we can ascend to a higher stream of consciousness.
Wow. So do you think that that's why so many people seem, I feel like more and more, and no matter who I talk to, no matter where they live, because I thought it was a California thing, but it seems like people everywhere are just scattered and not doing well. And like collectively, the whole world seems to be in kind of a negative place that I've never seen. Like I said, I'm 55. I don't ever remember having this feeling about the entire planet. Is that maybe why?
That's what it says. We all, I believe, you, I, whether we know it now, maybe I'm telling people hearing this for the first time, we chose to be here right now to be a part of this. This is more than historic. This is like, I don't even know what you would call this. This is like not a once in a lifetime. This is like once in 200,000 years, I don't know, maybe a billion years opportunity, but it's also can be a very painful time to live because it just means that there's more death, there's more suicide, there's more addiction, there's more homeless, there's more everything, because it's an undoing of all of the doing that we've found ourselves in over the last 4,000 years. And you're darn right. That's like a consciousness change. It can't just, you know, like a flip or a flip of a switch or snap your fingers and all of a sudden everything's going to be amazing. It's a journey. It's like we're being reborn out of the birth canal of the earth. When you think about a birthing process, that's traumatic.
Yeah.
It's painful. And we're still in the birth canal right now. We're still having contractions.
And I can feel it.
That's why I'm open about my story, even if some people might think I'm crazy, because the other part of that is now their spiritual gifts are coming online like that. Like when you talk to my husband, he actually died twice going through his awakening process because his body and his mind couldn't handle all of the information. And so that's another reason we started our suicide awareness conversation, because if you don't understand what's going on, you might just check out. You might just choose to kill yourself. You might just drink way too much for just long enough and die, because it's so much for the body and the mind to handle right now. You got to have a teacher, you got to have, self-care, you got to have a community of support. Otherwise, if you're living in isolation, it can be really, really hard and really, really scary.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's something. And I think a lot of people are drawn to just letting go and isolating themselves because it is so chaotic, and I think that's true. You got to find a community, no matter how long it takes. You just have to keep looking for the right people. Because like you said, you went to many different types of therapies and stuff until you found what was. So I want to thank you so much for coming on. We could sit there and talk about this for like 2 days and still not talk about all of it. But I really appreciate your time and your knowledge because, like I said, I've had some light bulb moments that just put some pieces together for me. So I feel very blessed being able to talk to you. And I think the viewers are really going to be blessed by this too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.